I don't know if this is working yet. I'm actually thinking more about the streaming. Stephen, can you hear this? Oh, you can hear this. Okay. Right, I want an earpiece in the middle, so the middle. Inem matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Inem matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Inem matov, inem matov. Yalalai, yalalalalai, hine matov, hine matov. Yalalai, yalalalalai, hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Shabbat Shalom. And Chag Chanukah Sameach, a happy Hanukkah to you all. As we welcome Shabbat and Chanukah at the same time, we begin as we light our Hanukkah candles, because we always light the Hanukkah candles first, then the Shabbat candles. So if you brought your menorah with you, I invite you to join us up on the bima as we do our Hanukkah blessings. It's like
What? Sam made it for school.
okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem pazman hazeh. Happy Hanukkah.
Not only that, but if there's
We don't have it.
And Judith, while you're up, would you light our candles? Thank you.
Can we get a prayer book?
Okay. We turn to the lighting of our Shabbat candles, page 2 and 3.
As these Shabbat candles will give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu hadlik ner shel Shabbat v'shel Hanukkah.
We actually consider they're done separately
Well,
because we light the Hanukkah candles first. But Shabbat Shalom. On page 8. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services. But I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. The Chuneranana is on page 12. Lechuneranena, lechuneranena, lechuneranena ladonai. Lechuneranena, lechuneranena, lechuneranena ladonai. Naria, naria, litzui shenu, nekad mafanav todah. Naria, naria, litzui shenu, bizmerut naria lo. Lechuneranena, lechuneranena, lechuneranena ladonai. Lechuneranena, lechuneranena, lechuneranena ladonai. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hands are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. We turn to the words that welcome the Sabbath bride as we turn to L'Chadodi on page 20. Ya la 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 lecha dodi. Let me try that a little higher, that one. Ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamu v'zachur. B'dibur echad. Ishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, ushemo echad, l'shemul tiferet v'litilai, ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat. Lechu v'nelcha. Ki hi mekor haberacha. Merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techilai. Ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitorari, hitorari, kiva orech, kumiori, uri, uri, shirdaberi, kivod Adonai, al Yalla la 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 lecha dodi. Yalla la 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 likrat kala. Yalla la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. For the last verse, if we are able, we rise and face the door. Boi v'shalom materet bala gam b'simcha uv'tohola toch emunei am segula boi chala boi chala. Yalla la 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 lecha dodi. Yalla la 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 likrat kala. Yalla la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. We continue as we turn to page 145 for Reader's Kaddish.
Yikara v'yikara shmei rabba.
Amen.
Be'amra divra hirute v'yamlik malchute. Be'ayechon uvyomechon uvchayedechol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv. Vimru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabba mevorach.
Le'olam olam me'almaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'ramam v'naseh v'hadar v'alev v'hala shmei d'kudisha
Barichu.
Leile min kol b'kirata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata tamiram b'yama.
v'imru.
Amen. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. Hamevorach leolam va'ed. Hamevorach. Hamevorach leolam va'ed. The middle of 147 we read together. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu lemadeta, al kein Adonai Eloheinu v'tishoch beinu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toratcha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, ve'ahavadcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Oheb amo Yisrael, Oheb amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We are on 150.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On 151, we worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart. There is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption come? When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. We learn God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei ayam lifnei Moshe, v'zeh eliyanu ve'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And if you're wondering, there's no exact science for fitting these into the Hanukkah melodies. So everybody does it a little bit differently. 153. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch ata Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Mekadashei, Mekadashei Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yispehu, V'yitangu mitu v'chashabat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, Chemdad yamin, oto karakta Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Zecher lemasei, lemasei v'reishit Shabbat, Zecher lemasei, lemasei v'reishit Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. We continue as we turn to the words of the Tefillah, beginning on page 155. And once again, if you are able, I invite you to rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi ki tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Majhiv haruach u'morid hagashem. Mechalkel chaim bechesed. Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim. Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato. Lishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot. Umidom melach. Melech meimit umechaye. Umatzmiach Yeshua. Ne'emanata l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai. Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh. Ukdoshim b'chol yom yalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai. Ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days. More sacred than all festival times, so it is written in your Torah. The heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done. Ceasing then on the seventh day from the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Together at the top of 160. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel who sanctifies your name may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We're turning over to the words of the Hoda'ah, the prayer that's beginning on page 162 is 163. But tonight this prayer is slightly different, because on the festival of during the time of Hanukkah and also on Purim, there's an extra section that gets added into this. So if you see that there's one little line that's written there in the middle, on Hanukkah, turn to page 264. So we're going to start on page 163, but we're going to jump over to 264. For the good in us which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise. For the desire in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being. Over to 264. Al ha-nisim ve'al ha-purkan ve'al ha-gvurot ve'al ha-tshuvot ve'al ha-milchamot she'asit lavoteinu bayamim ha'hem bazman hazeh. Al ha-nisim ve'al ha-purkan ve'al ha-gvurot ve'al ha-tshuvot ve'al ha-milchamot she'asit lavoteinu Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. We thank you for the miracles, for redemption, for mighty deeds and saving acts brought about by you, and for the wars which you waged for our ancestors in the days of old at this season. In the days of the Hasmoneans, Mattathias ben Yochanan, the high priest, and his children, when the evil government of Greece rose up against them, your people Israel, to make them forget your Torah and to make them leave the laws of your will. In your great mercy you rose up with them in their time of trouble, and fought in their fight, judged their cause just. You delivered the mighty into the hands of the weak, and the many into the hands of the few, the unclean into the hands of the pure, the evil into the hands of the righteous, and the arrogant into the hands of those who engage in your Torah. For you made a great and holy name in your world, and for your people Israel. You brought about the great triumph and redemption on that very day. And when your children came to the Holy of Holies and emptied your temple and purified your holy place and lit candles in your holy court and established these 8 days of Hanukkah, gratefully acknowledged and to praise your great name. We continue back with the end of the Hoda'ah, back on 163. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lehodot. Just before we go on to Shalom Rav, the section that we just read about Hanukkah, the prayer, anything strike you about it? They used the word Greeks because it was the Syrian Greeks who were in charge of the land. Well, at that point, I don't think why would use the word nice. Forced, no. Nope, but there's something very interesting about it. It says they established the 8 days of Hanukkah, right? But what's missing? There's no mention of the oil. There's no mention of that miracle about the oil that supposedly was lit for 1 day and lasted all 8 days. That's because the story of the oil, we believe, wasn't added to Hanukkah until a few hundred years later. Because originally what was Hanukkah? Hanukkah was about a military victory. It was about the Hasmoneans, the Maccabees, defeating the Greeks, cleansing the temple, and starting to celebrate in the ancient temple all over again. But a few hundred years later, when the Jews were subjects of other countries, of other rulers, you didn't really want to celebrate a holiday that celebrated a revolt against those people who were in charge. And so all of a sudden, the story of the oil comes into being. We actually don't see the story of the oil for about 650 years between when Hanukkah actually occurred and when the first time we saw the story itself written. So it's an interesting thing to note that when we read this in our prayer book, it tells the story closer to probably what it really was, as opposed to the story that we often tell each other when it comes to celebrate the time to celebrate Hanukkah. Shalom Ra. Oh, go ahead, Bruce. Sorry. Hanukkah means dedication or rededication. It can mean both, right? And it had to do with the rededication of the ancient temple back to a house of God, right? And so it is very probable that they tried to light the oil at that time because there was an eternal light that they kept burning. We're just not as sure about whether or not the actual miracle of the oil about it lasting 8 days was, because it's interesting that we don't hear about it anyplace else except for 650 years later, right? So, it is a tradition. It is one of those stories that we tell. And I mentioned this at our board meeting on Monday night. I've always been a little confused why we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days, right? Because the first day really wasn't a miracle. The first day, they had enough oil that it was supposed to last 1 day. So that's not a miracle. But as I like to tell it is, the fact that they had the chutzpah to light it anyway, knowing that it was probably going to run out, maybe that was actually the miracle. Having the chutzpah to believe that we're going to light it and things will take care of itself. And that's what they, sorry? They took the step in. They took a leap of faith, shall we say. Well, there's a very good argument to be made that what Hanukkah actually is it's Sukkot in December, right? Because that's one of our other holidays. That's one of the only other Torah-based holidays that's actually 8 days. Because it's the 7 days of Sukkot and then Shmini Atzeret at the end, which is 8 days. So they celebrate the 8 days because what happens on Shmini Atzeret, that's when the prayer for rain begins. And so when you haven't been in the ancient temple and you haven't been able to ask for rain, what's the first thing that you're going to do? You're going to start the prayer for rain. Yeah, Dory. You're going to get a good Jewish answer, kind of. It has been for a long time known as the Festival of Lights. That concept of the use of lights was part of it is this is one of those festivals that happens during the time of year when the days are the shortest. So lighting candles, the creation of light is a very important thing because this is the time when people were afraid in the ancient world that the days were going to keep getting shorter, not longer again, and that there were many other festivals that were celebrated around this time, all tied up with the concept of light. So it has a very, very long history with light, but it only starts to get the name officially about 1,000 years after Hanukkah actually happened. Now, but to say that also means that that's about 1,200 years ago, so it's had a long history of being called the Festival of Lights. So. I wasn't planning on doing all of this right here, but it's my fault. I opened up the door. The answer is that there's not a lot about Judah Maccabee. Part of it is because there's nothing in Torah or in the Bible about Hanukkah. There's no mention of Hanukkah in the Bible. The only place Hanukkah is mentioned is in books that are called the books of Maccabees, and the first 2 books of Maccabees tell the story. But one of the things that happened was the Maccabees, at the very beginning, everybody thought were fantastic. They reconquered the land. They made it back into a Jewish state. But if we read some of the history after that, some of the kings who were Hasmonean from the line of Judah Maccabee were not the best kings in the world. And in fact, they're the ones who get the Israelites in trouble. The Israelites in trouble because they invite the Romans in order to fight against the Greeks in Egypt. And the Romans end up then taking over the land, conquering it, and destroying the ancient temple. So the Maccabees are kind of we love them and we celebrate them, but at the same time, yeah. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship with them all at the same time. Yeah. Let's just take a moment for silent prayer instead, and give ourselves a moment to bring ourselves back to services. It's not you. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru. Imru. Amen. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. So the story is told that the family is sitting around the apartment in Brooklyn. It's the eighth night Pesach. Time for a nap. The eighth night of Hanukkah. Mom's in the kitchen making latkes. Dad is sitting reading the newspaper, and I'm watching the candles burn. They're allowed to work while they're burning. They're watching the candles. And then all of a sudden, something very odd happens. A very bright colored bird lands on the window pane and starts tapping at the window. Yes, I'm laughing for exactly that reason. I look out, little boy looks up and looks at the bird and says, "What are you doing there?" And the father says, who are you talking to? And says, "Dad, look, there's a bird outside the window knocking at the glass." And the father looks up and lo and behold, there is a bird knocking at the glass. But it's not the normal bird that you expect to see in Brooklyn. It happens to be a parrot. And the father knows that parrots aren't native to Brooklyn, right? They usually live in much warmer climates. They aren't made to be outside in this weather this time of year. So the father says, we've got to let the bird in. We've got to let the bird in to save it. So the mother and the son and the father open up the window and try to shoo the bird inside, and the bird doesn't seem at all afraid. He kind of flies in. At first, he flies around the living room a little bit. Not a very large living room, so there wasn't a lot of places to go. He kind of bounced off a little. And then eventually, he comes to rest on the little boy's head. And the little boy doesn't seem particularly afraid. The bird doesn't seem afraid. And the boy puts his hand up, and the bird climbs on, and then he brings the bird down. And the little boy is amazed and looks at his father as, what is a parrot doing in Brooklyn? Dad says, well, it must be somebody's pet. They must be worried about it because outside in the frigid air like this, it's not safe. So, and the boy says, well, great, we'll go get a cage for it. And Dad says, hang on, it's not ours. We have to try and find its owners. So the little boy, a little disappointed, puts the bird down on the table, and lo and behold, the bird starts to play with the dreidel that's on the table right there next to him. Starts pushing it around, and the little boy goes, "Hey, look, he knows how to play dreidel." So he says, "We may not be able to keep him, but I'm going to call him Dreidel the parrot, until we find who he belongs to." So the next day, the father went out and put up some signs that said parrot found, and their phone number, and said to contact them if they were missing a parrot. Well, a week goes by and nobody says anything. The father goes to the police station and says, we found a parrot. We're trying to find its owner. Has anybody come in looking for a parrot? And the police say, no, no parrot there. And over time, they realize nobody's going to come and get this parrot. So finally, the father says, okay, we're going to buy a cage. They buy a cage, but because they found him on Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is a festival of freedom, they decide that they're never going to close the cage door. They're going to leave it open so Dreidel can get in and out of the cage whenever he feels like it. It happens that the man at the pet store is able to tell them that it was a he, not a her. So Dreidel starts living with the family. And he lives with the family for years and years. And one of the things they discover over time is that Dreidel is an interesting parrot because Dreidel speaks Yiddish. Because one of the things that Dreidel sometimes says is, Zedela, go to sleep. Zedela, go to sleep. Zedela, go to sleep. I think it was Geh Schlufen would be the proper Yiddish. Zedela Geh Schlufen. But we'll do the translation. So over the years, Dreidel becomes part of the family. Well, one day the young man, who's no longer a young man because it's about 9 years later, calls his parents very excitedly and says, I was at a Hanukkah party this week, and I told the story of our parrot Dreidel. And one of the people who was there, a young lady whose name happens to be Zelda, right, said that their parrot flew away and they never knew what happened to it. And they're going like, this can't, could this possibly be? They were, what is gonna happen? So Zelda and her family come over and they come to see Dreidel. And they walk in and they call Dreidel by the name they used to call him. And all of a sudden he looks up, he responds and flies over to the family. Like he recognizes the family. It's like, where have you been all of these years? Well, this leaves the family that had adopted Dreidel in the situation of, are we going to lose our bird? Right? Well, it just so happens that on that particular night, as they were celebrating Hanukkah, the little boy who wasn't so little anymore actually proposed to Zelda. And that when they got married, they kept the bird. They kept the bird, and so Dreidel, the parrot, continued to live on with both families, being able to share. A nice little Hanukkah story. Let's turn to the words of Aleinu, page 282, and rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Ushemo Echad. We pause now to think of our loved ones, those whom death has recently taken from us, and those who died at this season in years past, and all of those we have taken into our hearts as our own. On this Shabbat, we recall the names of Lucille Sue Jacobson, Malda Raber, and Harriet Baskin. All were in their period of Shloshim. And to their names we link those whose yahrzeits occur at this time, as we remember Lionel Asher, Julius L. Cohen, Sarah Cohn, Johanna Gernsheimer, William Holzman, Mamie Mushlin, Matilda Reiser, Morris Weissman. Zichronam livracha. May the memories of each of them forever be a blessing. We turn to the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitchadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayeh dechol Beit Yisrael, b'galav v'zman kari v'yimru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemed kudisha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran b'alma v'yimru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom v'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high, let peace descend on us and all Israel and all the world, to which we say, Amen. Turning from words that sanctify memory to words that sanctify Shabbat, we turn to Kiddush. And do the two of you want to come up? And either you want to come up so you can get challah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'yava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lamikra'e kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. L'chaim. And I know what you guys are looking for. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Amotzi lechem min haaretz. You may be seated. Ladies. With only two of them, they don't take nearly as big a piece out. There's some left for us. So join us afterwards in the social hall for the chance to say Shabbat Shalom and Chag Chanukah Sameach to each other. It is a somewhat slow week, not a whole lot going on. No religious school this Sunday or Tuesday with the winter holidays. Next Friday night is a 6 o'clock service. That service will have the cantor with us. It's also the first Friday of the month, so we are doing one of our dinners with it. So if you are interested, please let the office know so we can make sure there's enough food for everybody who is there. Tat Shabbat, regardless of what it says in your programs, Tat Shabbat is not on the 14th. We're not holding it during the middle of the week. It will be the 11th, Saturday morning, the 11th, and we're actually doing a special Tat Shabbat that morning because we're doing a baby naming of the child of some new members at that service as well. So it'll be an extra special celebration that particular morning. Bruce, anything else? Okay, good. Making sure I didn't forget anything. Let's end with words that are appropriate for Hanukkah. Ma'utzur, page 365. Ma'utzur Yeshuati Lechanae Leshabeach Tichon Beit Tefilati B'sham Toda Nizabeach Le'et Tachin Matbeach Mitznar Hamna Beach Azegmur Bashir Mizmor Chanukat HaMizbeach Azegmur Bashir Mizmor Chanukat HaMizbeach. Rock of Ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amidst the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, and your arm availed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Shabbat Shalom.